welcome to Love Capsule, the confessions you won't hear anywhere else. Why does your ex always come back right when you're finally moving on?
Do you think that's just a coincidence? Well, no, it's actually much more psychological than you think. So, my dear, today we're going to tackle a rather tricky topic.
All right, well, let's get started. I think we're going to ask ourselves a few questions and see if we're on the same wavelength.
Absolutely, let's go.
I'm going to avoid talking to you too much about my exes because it never seemed like a good idea to talk too much about your exes. In your opinion, why do you think an ex always comes back right when we're starting to move on?
Exes are kind of like a Netflix series. As soon as you found a good show, they come back.
That's not wrong. So why do you think they come back anyway?
There are a lot of factors. I think we'll talk about it throughout our interview. But the number one factor is ego. Often, so I'll speak for men because I know a bit about women too, but for me, ego is the number one factor, meaning ego and also love. If we broke up with our ex while we were still in love, it sucks if she meets someone else. I think it's a mix of both. When you're still in love, when you still have feelings, that's love because you were in love with that girl. And ego, well, yeah, of course. When you realize that the girl you were with starts meeting new guys and all, it really stings. It's awful. It's awful. And so, even if it means making a bad choice, that is, we broke up because we knew we weren't compatible, etc., it can push us out of ego and ah, to go back, even though we truly know it's not the right decision, a little bit.
I totally agree. Especially for men, in my opinion, ego plays a big part. So, first of all, just to know, have any of your exes ever come back to you? For me, I know that almost all my exes have come back, so man. And actually, most of the time, you can really feel there's a lot of ego involved. It's like, oh, damn, she doesn't need me anymore. Oh, actually, she wasn't so bad. Oh, maybe I'd like to get back together after all, and so on. I think that for women, on the other hand, it's more about the fear of losing the person. I rarely go back. I must have tried once or twice, but out of fear, because I still had too much love, because the person left me. But if I'm the one who leaves someone, I never go back.
And girls come back less often than guys do.
Yeah, but that's because when women leave, they don't come back because they've usually tried everything before. When they leave, it's really over. Over. You men, when you leave, it's not necessarily completely over yet. There's something that annoys you, something you can't stand anymore, and even if there's still love, you leave. Generally, women don't leave when there's still love.
And in your opinion, do they come back with a sincere word or just out of fear of losing you?
Out of fear of losing me, in my opinion. I hope that's the reason, because if it's out of love, then why leave? Well, after all, there are 15 billion factors. You can leave because you're no longer happy, because you're destroying yourself, etc. But we're always speaking in general terms. I think there will always be a small part of you that comes back out of love because you realize that you made a mistake. It also happens that we make bad decisions in the heat of anger, sadness, etc. But in my opinion, a lot of it is more about ego. And what would you say?
I've never been dumped before.
I feel like you're challenging me.
I've never been dumped, so I've never been in that situation. I've broken up with people, and there were two possible scenarios. The person in front of me cut off all contact to really separate.
Which is very
Healthy, yes, you're right, it's very healthy. And the second scenario was more complicated for that person. And in that case, it was probably because that person was still very attached. But to answer the question, um, I'll try to give my opinion by analyzing it. If it's girls, it's more about a sincere word. On the other hand, if it's boys, it's because they can't accept losing their girlfriend or the idea that she's going to have another guy. It's
It's true that for guys, it's hard to move on and see us leave with someone else.
But as a result, it's absolutely not healthy. It's terrible. I mean, you can't be the one who leaves and the one who comforts at the same time.
I'm the one who told you.
That. But that phrase, we often use the same words, darling. So I was already saying that phrase before, and when you said it, it really struck me. But listen, gentlemen, when you break up with someone, don't go contacting her a month later to say, by the way, this or that, and try to prove something to her, because that person is trying to rebuild herself and is on a new path and has probably already started to heal her wounds. It's like when you're healing, a week later things are a bit better, but if someone hits you in the same spot again, it's terrible. It hurts even more. So you really have to be very careful about that.
You should only go back if you're sure it's still love and that you made a mistake, because that happens too. Sometimes people break up impulsively in the heat of the moment, and later you think maybe I shouldn't have left her.
Is it possible to get back together with someone, to give yourselves a fresh start? We
We will get to that later, as long as there isn't. So we're talking about ego, but do you think that maybe there's also a fear of being alone?
Yes,
There are plenty of people who have to go from one person to another.
absolutely, absolutely. People out of loneliness tell themselves, "Ah, it wasn't that bad."
It's
Crazy that. Oh, yes, absolutely, because human beings aren't made to be alone.
me, I'm made to be simple.
You're made to be alone, darling, but you deal with a lot of people, you have a lot to do, and you have social interactions all day long. So those moments of solitude are incredible for you because that's your way to decompress. But all day you're managing people, you're always in contact. It's different for you. You're a very active woman.
But even my breakup, when I didn't have all this yet, when I didn't have all these businesses yet, my big breakup, it was impossible for me to go to someone else afterwards.
That was something else. It was because you needed to heal from that. Exactly. But let's consider that once the initial first week has completely passed, or perhaps the intense pain is gradually starting to significantly fade away. Some individuals, yes, indeed, out of profound loneliness and also quite naturally out of ingrained habit, may react in certain ways.
Out of habit, too.
Yes, exactly. We get used to the evening cuddle, to watching our show at night together, silly things like that. It's true.
It's often the habits that are the hardest to break.
It's awful. It's really awful.
When you're in a long distance relationship, the good thing is that you don't really have time to form those kinds of habits. But here it's more complicated.
You see, we still created some habits though, because if I didn't get the good night text or the good morning text, it was unsettling. Those are still little habits. There are things we agree on, so that's important.
But I agree with you. I also think there's a big part of it that's about ego for sure, whether it's men or women. We always talk about men having egos, but there are a lot of women who also have a huge ego and can't stand it. Seeing their ex leave with another woman, it goes both ways. But I also think actually that there's the feeling of loneliness where you tell yourself, yeah, in the end, it wasn't so bad.
Does an ex really feel that we've moved on, even without any contact?
Yes, 1,000 times, yeah. Because even if we're not in contact, there are always a billion little tricks to make the other person think about us. There are stories that are targeted on social media, now it's just relentless. You're inevitably going to do things that will make them understand. Silly things, like when a woman goes to the hairdresser, changes her hairstyle, starts spending a lot of time working out again, gets all dressed up at 24, and so on. Usually it's because she wants to show you that she's moved on. Even if you're not in contact with the person today, unfortunately, with social media, you can see everything, you can access everything. And even if you block everything, who doesn't have fake accounts? Who doesn't have fake accounts to check things out? How many times have I ended up with exes who follow me with fake accounts thinking they're being discreet when they're really not? Yes. Even without contact, in my opinion, the person knows. What do you think?
You're talking about the guy who wants to try to check up on his ex and see what she's up to, but there's also the circle of friends. That is, even when we want to block everything, our circle of friends usually remains. We've built a circle of friends that's shared, so despite ourselves, even when we cut off the ties, etc., you can still come across photos, videos, and so on. It's actually very difficult to break things off with your ex,
Or someone who talks to you, someone
close to someone who.
tells you they saw them with someone else? It's true, that's not easy. We're often tempted to go back, even though generally, if we broke up, there was a good reason for it. But still, we're often tempted to go back.
Either because we truly realize that the new person we're currently with just isn't quite good enough after all. So far today,
Ah, that's awful.
yeah, but it's
Awful to say that.
it's a possibility. There are guys who realize actually I was really happy. I was really happy. She nagged me a bit less. She understood me better. She let me go to the gym. So that's one reason. There's also habits after all. That's something strong. Sometimes it's worth being with someone if it's not. First of all, there's a theory that for me seems true. It's hard to forget someone you were in love with if you don't fall in love again 100%.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Or else it takes a lot of time.
But I think that when you've really loved someone anyway, we've already talked about this, but when you've truly loved someone, you'll always have some form of love, some affection for that person, even if you have other people in your life, etc. Love never really disappears, normally.
If I,
If you really love them.
And you then, why do you think people try to get back together with an ex?
Loneliness. We talked about it earlier. Habits. That's for sure. I think the hardest part about a breakup, beyond losing the person and knowing you won't create new memories together, is really the habits. It's hard for humans to change their habits. It's very hard to change your comfort zone and so on. And it's also easier than starting over from scratch in a relationship, having to do everything again, getting back on the apps to go on dates, going through all those phases of, hey, how are you? What do you do for a living? And so on. There are a lot of people, and from talking to many who told me this, who just can't be bothered to rebuild everything. So, in the end, well, it wasn't so bad.
And then it's hard to find someone you really get along with, someone you enjoy spending time with, because sometimes it might be over something silly, but is it really worth rebuilding all of that with someone else, starting over with new problems, new patterns, new worries, having to deal with a new, when you've already figured out the codes of the person you were with, if you stayed together for a while? So, yeah, it can definitely be discouraging.
But you shouldn't get back together with someone if you really broke up for reasons that were very important and totally justified. But you should know that in any case, you're never going to have a perfect relationship. No one is going to give you absolutely everything you need. No one is completely without flaws. These are really complicated choices to make. But if you broke up for reasons that were truly valid, for things you just can't get past and that hurt you too much, you shouldn't get back together.
And Remy, let's go back to the question we asked earlier. What do you think about exes? Do things really change when they come back, or is it always the same story repeating itself?
It doesn't change. It doesn't change. You can't change a person. You shouldn't try to change someone. If someone isn't right for you, they're just not right for you. You can change small details. You can change things that aren't deep. For example, if you tell me you need to go out 2 more hours a week, you see, those are little details, but my core values will never change. My personality traits won't change.
Has it ever happened to you that exes wanted to get back together with you several times? Yes?
Very often. Very, very often. I think there isn't a single one.
And why did you refuse every time?
There are some I didn't refuse. There are times when I made the mistake of going back, only for it to end again a few months later,
Worse.
where you really end up hurting yourself. The first time you broke up, you hurt yourself a little, but it stayed respectful, it was okay. The second time, usually she doesn't forgive. It hurts a lot more because there's a lot of resentment with all that, etc. And if I went back, it was out of love. It wasn't out of fear of being alone.
So, was the primary and main reason you both broke up something you ultimately managed to put aside when you truly gave it a second chance? Boy?
Well, the problem is that the main reasons we broke up were often really silly. They weren't real problems. After 3 months, as we were saying earlier, relationships often end after 3 months. The person would make me experience a bit of love bombing, love upon love. You're the woman of my life, you're the most perfect woman, and so on. From one day to the next, an ex shows up and it's goodbye. I'm not in love with you anymore. I'm leaving. So they weren't relationship problems, they were problems with feelings, which is even worse for the relationship. So I had no problem getting over things we might have gone through.
I would ask myself the question. Again, it's never happened to me, so it's hard to talk about. But I'm trying to intellectualize the thing. If I were with someone who had cheated on me, even if in that situation I'm madly in love with her, we break up, the love is still there, she comes back, would I be able to get past that to rebuild a relationship? Or would it eat away at me every day, every morning when I wake up? And I suppose there are plenty of people in those situations who give themselves another chance, who try again, but how do they experience it? Can you really get past it? Can it sometimes even be a saving grace for a couple?
Of course. It depends on the why, on how you broke up. Having experienced it myself and knowing many friends who have gone through it too, for example, infidelity, some people manage to get over it and some just can't. I'll give you my own example. The first time I found out my ex had cheated on me, I just couldn't leave him. I wanted to get past it because there was too much love and so. And in the end, when you get back together and say, okay, let's try again, it's not a big deal, let's give it a second shot. For me, it just ate me up inside. I just couldn't trust him again. I turned into a nightmare. I became jealous and possessive, which I wasn't before. So by trying again, we ended up hurting each other even more. But again, it depends on why you break up in the first place. Sometimes you break up over an argument, something silly. Everyone's on edge, you've got too much to handle, everyone's stressed out, and one wrong word and you break up saying, that's it, I'm tired of all the drama, I can't take it anymore. When in reality, there's no real reason to break up. I don't know if you'll be able to answer me since you've never gone back to one of your exes, but in your opinion, what are the signs that show someone is coming back for the right reasons and not just for comfort or because they don't want to be alone?
First of all, it's about what they say. Basically, I'm coming back to you because I miss you, because I love you, because I can't live without you, because you're a central part of my life. Unless the person is being dishonest, but if you chose them, they,
There are a lot of people who can give you beautiful speeches and who,
yeah, but still, if she comes and I'd be inclined to believe someone who really comes to me and seeing her, I can tell she hasn't slept in 10 days, that she's madly in love and all that, you know. So, in any case, I could be sensitive to that if there are words that really hit me, yeah. Then you also have to trust your instincts, your feelings. Is it really worth it?
and your feelings are often biased when you're in love. Your feelings are very, very biased.
Or else we sit down and analyze the situation. What didn't work? Can we make it better? Why not talk beforehand about solutions that could lead to an ideal situation before getting back together and actually validate them together to see if the person really wants to make an effort? That's the angle I would approach it from.
But for me, if you want to be sure the person is coming back for the right reasons, you have to put them to the test. And it's not just about words, because words are super easy, saying, I miss you, you're the woman of my life. I can't even count how many times I've heard that in my life. It's very easy to say. Actions, show me, prove to me that it's worth starting over, give me a real reason, show me, find, and actually be a bit creative and come up with ideas to show me that we really are good together and that it would be a shame to miss out on this.
And in your opinion, how do you know if that's really what you should do or if it's a trap? Do you have any too?
So often, at least for me, getting back together with an ex,
It's really a trap.
it's a trap because at the moment, again, these are generalizations. For some people, it works out really well. For others, it ends up being like a second life and so on. And that really depends on the individual case. But in general, when something breaks, it breaks for a reason. And you have to make sure that the other person is also ready to work on it. Because if you break up and then get back together 2 weeks later, the person won't have had the realization to work on what wasn't working. On the other hand, sometimes you have people who get back together a few months or even a few years later.
It makes me think of my best friend who was actually in a relationship with his wife. They got married, they had children, then they separated. I don't know. And there was a gap of 6 months, maybe a year, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact dates anymore. Each of them lived their own life a little during that time, and then they got back together. They're still together to this day. And so there was that 6 month to 1 year break. So in the end, it shows that it's possible because I have an example that proves it's possible. But on the other hand, it must be tricky at first.
Yes, but in 6 months to a year, you also have time to do the work to say, okay, it didn't work out because of this, this, and that. Was it worth it? To,
Realize the value of what you created. You had a family with children, right?
of course. But I think you need a bit of time. You can't just say to yourself after a week, okay, I get it all now, and go back and make the same mistake again.
And I'll just bounce back on what I just said. But it's true that when you have a family, when you have kids, that also weighs in the balance. I mean, if you cut yourself off from all that, if you only see your kids 1 week out of two, do you really want to go down that family path? Or do you stay not out of comfort, but because you want things to stay the way they are? In the end, it depends on the situation. It's not the same when you're just in a relationship and you're 20 as when you're 40 and have a family with two kids.
And to follow up on all that, we were talking about the trap. So, to give you a bit of my insights, you'll be glad to hear them. There's also something very easy to spot. It's when the person in front of you blows hot and cold. Exes love to come back. I'm talking about men here, but they love to come back. And as soon as you start giving them a little, opening the door just a bit, they run away.
And
And then as soon as you close it again because you're fed up, he comes back. And that is monstrously annoying. And then you realize that, in fact, you're a trophy, you're a game. Actually, what he wanted was not to come back out of love, loneliness, or habit. He comes back because you become someone to conquer again because you said no, and often if. I have another example which is about me, but if the guy left you, the woman tries to come back to win him back, etc. The guy, he runs away, he runs away, he runs away, he runs away. When you understand how to win a man back, because it's really not that complicated to get a man or a woman back, you just have to go radio silent and live your best life. And generally, human beings can't stand being in silence. So if you try, it's very simple. Every time I've done this, you go 4 or 5 days without any contact. Strangely enough, you'll get a little like on your story, a quick hello here and there, and so on. And you see, the person comes back just because, once again, they want to win you over in quotes, but once you're there, the same thing happens over and over again.
How should you react to that? So, what's the right solution in the end? Should you keep playing this hot and cold game and adapt to him? Or is it curtains? If he acts like this, it means he's not here for the right reasons, so it's over.
I think when someone gives you the hot and cold treatment all day like that, it's someone who's still playing games and isn't emotionally ready to settle down. If you really love the person, like we were saying earlier, the person tells you that they really miss you, etc. They won't want to hurt you when you come back, normally. Of course. Normally they'll say, that's it, I've got her back, I'm so happy. But in this case, if you really have someone who keeps playing hot and cold, you're just a trophy and object to be conquered. And unfortunately, it happens often.
That's super interesting.
Thank you. I've been left this time to have the insight of the R-site. If you need anything else, I don't know.
We're writing a book like in
18 chapters, how to get dumped?
Head Held High.
Not always. I'll admit, not always. There were times when I made the mistake of trying to win them back. And actually, when you make that mistake of trying to win them back, it's really because you're in love, where you think, oh my god, how am I going to live without this person?
Has it never happened to you to want to do it out of ego?
No. Because,
We talk about men, but women have egos too.
no, never out of ego. But again, it's because when I leave, I really leave. I don't come back. If I tell you it's over, you can be sure. You can try to come back. You can do whatever you want. It's over. But actually, the opposite has happened to me more often.
Are you sure you don't want to stay?
That's kind of it. It's happened to me more often that someone left me. And in that case, when I try to win them back, it's absolutely not about ego, it's about love. But again, I'm talking about myself. I'm not naive, like, oh yes, it's really great, I'm so...
I'm hurt.
And if you had to give advice to someone whose ex was coming back, what would it be?
First, do some introspection. What is good for us and what is bad? Analyze why it ended. And does the fact that they're coming back actually align with what we want in life now? And try to make a choice, not in the heat of the moment, but by calmly analyzing the situation. Well, those are nice words, but when we're talking about emotion and love, it's very hard to make decisions without that factor coming into play. But yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Even if, unfortunately, it hurts the other person. Because if you make a decision in the heat of the moment, just because, yeah, he's cool, yeah, things are going well, yeah, it pisses me off that he's seeing someone else and all that. But if it's going to ruin the rest of your life, then there's really no choice. It's
Pointless. I have an example that comes to mind of an ex who left a woman for me and then left me for her. He stayed with her for 4 or 5 years. She went back to him out of ego just to piss me. Honestly, it was pure unfiltered ego. They got a civil partnership, got married, and had 2 kids. And once the ego faded because she realized that I absolutely wasn't chasing after this person and that I had run very, very far away from them, it ended. So you can never go back out of ego. Never. You really do have to weigh the pros and cons beforehand. You have to step back. Unfortunately, you have to manage to step back. It's very hard. I mean, it's very easy to say and very hard to do, but you have to get out of the emotional and move into the rational. Is what this person brings me really enough for me? If not, well, the things that bother me, are they really insurmountable? Because the problem is, when you go to someone else, sure, they might bring you other things, but there will also be other things that are just as annoying, etc. So making that choice and telling yourself that if it ended, generally it's because there was a reason. To analyze that reason. And generally sometimes it works out again, but in most cases when it's over, it's over.
okay, honey. Honestly, I think we've answered quite a few questions. Why do our exes always come back when it's over? In any case, it was a great time.
And you, don't hesitate to tell us in the comments if your exes always come back too. And let us know if you also gave in to temptation. I'm really curious.
Absolutely. We'll see you in the next episode. Don't hesitate to follow us on social media to stay updated on our latest news.
See you soon.